Spectre is the fourth Daniel Craig James Bond movie, and supposedly at the time it was his last one, but we got another one coming out. Before I get into it, I want to say spoilers for Spectre. You know the drill, spoilers. I remember when this movie was coming out, I was pumped out of my mind. I love Skyfall, and they were keeping Sam Mendes as director. It was about some evil organization that was run by Christoph Waltz, which at the time was one of my favorite actors working, and he just seemed perfect as a Bond villain. And I remember walking out of this movie being extremely disappointed. Not hating the movie, but just being very underwhelmed by it. So I was curious to see how I would feel rewatching it 5 years later. And I will say that it is better than what I remembered, but still, it felt very underwhelming. The movie is shot beautifully, the action sequences are great, Daniel Craig is still really good as James Bond, and Christoph Waltz, for what he has, is great. But the issue with this movie is the script and the story. The main issues with the script is it tries to be bigger than what it actually is. They try and connect a lot of things to make this movie seem like it's got bigger stakes than it really does. I will say the opening shot is amazing. Like, right away, I was hooked. I was like, oh shit, like, we're in it. We are in it. And throughout the movie, you realize that the action set pieces are very spread out, and it's really about this mystery that Bond is trying to figure more about this organization, more stuff about Skyfall, and that stuff is pretty interesting. I was actually very invested by the whole mystery behind Spectre. It's not like every scene there's some dumb action sequence tied together by some dumb plot. Quantum of Solace. The dumb subplot that I want to get into is the one with C. It's this guy who comes in, he's trying to shut down the 00 program in MI6. It's really the same as Rogue Nation with Mission Impossible, and it's so obvious that he's going to be part of Spectre, and he is. He eventually is revealed that he's part of Spectre, and everyone saw it coming. Anytime they cut back to this guy, so uninteresting. I kind of tuned out, because you know exactly where it's going. They're going to get 00 shut down, and then Bond's going to be on his own, which eventually happens, but at the end of the movie, we're going to find out we need 00, and that he was part of Spectre. Oh, big reveal, holy shit. The action sequences are good, I think for the most part. Like I said, they are shot very well. They're way better than Quantum of Solace. I don't think they're as good as Casino Royale and Skyfall, but they are pretty good. They just sometimes feel underwhelming. Most of this movie feels pretty underwhelming at some points. I'll get into that right now. So the big reveal of this movie is that Spectre has been behind everything. The Chief, Mr. Green, Silva, everything. They have been behind it, and Christoph Waltz has been running the show. But when you watch it, it feels very underwhelming, and it feels like it just doesn't fit. Like, when I rewatch Casino Royale, I'm not going to think of Le Chiffre working for Spectre at this moment. Quantum of Solace, maybe, because Quantum of Solace, you never really learned about Quantum, so I guess I can see how Quantum would be part of Spectre. That makes a little bit more sense now. But with Casino Royale, no, it seemed like Le Chiffre was on his own. He needed some money, and he was desperate to get it. Skyfall, not really. I mean, I guess Silva's a cyber terrorist, so he could be working for Spectre, but I felt like that was a personal revenge tale on M. So I don't really feel it there. It just seemed like the writers felt like they had to connect everything and have this big epic thing for the final stakes, since this was possibly Daniel Craig's final movie as James Bond. So they got Christoph Waltz. They're like, oh, he did all these horrible things. But in the actual movie, he doesn't really do anything. He tortures Bond in one scene. Really, he's barely in the movie, which is so disappointing because it's such a waste of Christoph Waltz's talent. And like I said, he doesn't really do anything. He's like, oh, look at all these things I did in the past, but you didn't really see me do it. Because we as an audience didn't see him do it because we saw other people do it. And he's like, oh, I was behind it though. It just doesn't feel the same. It's very underwhelming, and it just didn't work for me. Also, something that was underwhelming is I thought the love interest was. I think she was a great actress. I thought she was a great Bond girl. She was interesting. She was badass. But I did not fall for the fact that they fell in love that quickly. I did not buy it. The only time I feel like Bond fell in love is when he fell in love with Vesper. That was the most believable by far. There are things I do like in Spectre. I do like the mystery behind it. I do like the action sequences. They are pretty exciting. Some are a little underwhelming and some are meh, like the car chase after he's in the Spectre meeting. Let's talk about that Spectre meeting right now, because that was my favorite scene in the movie. That was intriguing shit, and it was a great introduction to Christoph Waltz's villain. That was awesome. It was intense. It was interesting. By far the best scene in the whole movie. I do like the scene at the end of the movie where he looks over at M. He looks over at the girl. He has to decide what he wants to do. Does he want to still be a 00 or does he want to finally settle down? I thought that was great. Other things I didn't like with the music, it seemed like they're recycling tracks from Skyfall. There are original scores in here, but it seemed like a lot of them were recycled tracks from Skyfall. You can do that in a movie. Endgame did it great. With Spectre, I feel like it just seemed lazy. That's what it came off as. And I didn't really buy the fact that Christoph Waltz's character was like somehow related to Bond, like his orphan brother or whatever. That just seemed like the writers were just trying to connect everything, and that's when it just becomes a little unbelievable, which is unfortunate because Daniel Craig's James Bond series is pretty grounded and seems pretty realistic, and that just seemed cartoonish and out of nowhere. But in the end though, that is the biggest problem with Spectre. They try and be bigger than what they actually are. They try and connect everything. They try and make the stakes more personal, bigger, higher, whatever you want to call it, and it just feels very underwhelming. They try and do a lot of things because they felt like this was the final Daniel Craig James Bond movie, and it felt like a lot of things fell flat. There are things in this movie I do like. It looks great, the action's great, and there's some really good scenes, and there are some good personal moments with Bond. But overall, this did feel pretty underwhelming compared to Casino Royale and Skyfall. Definitely way better than Quantum of Solace, I'll say that. Way better than Quantum of Solace, which I was happy to see that. Not saying this is a bad movie, I don't think it is. It's just a very underwhelming movie. I'm going to give Spectre a 7. Hopefully No Time to Die is better than Spectre because it's an odd number Bond movie, and so far Casino Royale and Skyfall have been amazing, 1 and 3, and then 2 was dog shit, and then 4 was meh. So hopefully 5 is at least good. I would be fine if 5 was better than Spectre, but not as good as Skyfall. Hopefully, it's the best one yet. We'll see. So I finally reviewed all the Daniel Craig James Bond movies. No Time to Die is coming out in November. Please let me know what you guys think of Spectre and how excited you are for No Time to Die. Thank you guys so much for watching. Click here to see more of Dave's Takes.